So we have the consent items for Winona County. And you might notice that I have March 2024 underneath there, and I didn't put anything after that. There has been some issues with the county calculating the allotted time for Winona, or for the Whitewater. And so the one for January and February were calculated wrong, and I noticed that we were getting charged at a much higher rate than what we should have. And so Pat Moga corrected those manually, and they're trying to correct the problem. So I didn't even, the March one was off, and so I'll just wait until the next meeting before that gets paid. But I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that we're getting charged at, and we're supposed to be getting charged at 20% of my pay and for 2024. And so the total of the bills payable is $4,104.
Okay, thank you. So that'll be corrected by the next time.
It should be, yeah.
Without Pat being there now.
I know, it's more.
I'm actually on the interview.
Oh, you
coming
are?
up here for the new finance director, I think on Tuesday, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay,
We have a new
all
one
right.
coming in, so,
Okay.
Internal or external?
external. External. Pat went to Olmsted, but now I'd heard he might be coming back. So.
I heard that he showed up for an interview. But
So, yeah, don't ask me. I always got along with that, so. So we'll see. Okay, anything else on the consent?
nope.
Okay, motion to approve. Might as well make one.
You're looking for a motion?
Yep.
Approve the consent items.
So moved.
Motion by Bob, second by
Second.
Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Board reports. Who wants to start? Brian? Nothing to say? Nothing going on?
Well, kind of off the wall, I guess Sheila Cascaden is resigning. She'll work till the end of the year here. She wanted to have it so it worked with the elections. So instead of having a special election, it can be with elections. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just trying to pick something that's going to be interesting.
That's all right.
If somebody else wants to go ahead, I can jump in later.
Go ahead. You want to go, James?
Yeah, just a few more, one or two cost share things. Orinoco that started up, I think there was 2 well ceilings, and sort of streamline the process on that so that rather than having to wait for approval on every contract, to start with, we authorize Skip to say that, yeah, he can get a contract established, and then we'll just have to approve them as they come across each month. And that, not a whole lot.
Okay. Lynn?
We've got pretty much the same thing, a lot of projects going through, but I guess the only unusual thing is we are going to be moving in the same building to a different office space later, so that's going to be a hassle for the next few months, but we need more space because the desks are like right next to each other now. So.
Lewiston has the same problem.
Mhm.
There was one thing I forgot, and that's simply that Andy Hart's the representative for the Red River One Water One plant.
Oh, he is.
Mm.
We work with Andy, so good. Yeah, nice guy.
So I'm done.
Yeah, well, sorry. Ross?
There was a lot presented at our last meeting. I'm drawing kind of a blank on some of it, but the to me, the most intriguing part, Sheila, you witnessed that too, or were you at the meeting? The video presentation.
Yes,
Of the Altura
yes.
well, I found that fascinating.
Mhm.
They're what, decommissioning, they're closing, sealing their big well?
It was sealed. It was hasn't been used since the 70s, but it was.
And prior to sealing, they sent down a camera,
Mhm.
and the video camera went down, how deep was it?
700 feet. 700 feet.
So what was intriguing to me was aquifer number one, that they encountered, you know, the water, and then they kept going. Aquifer one is high nitrate, is dumping its contaminated high nitrate water into the next aquifer, you know, and there's a lot of cross flow, and that was documented with the video surveillance. I found that intriguing and interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess,
Could that video be shared with other groups? I mean,
Yes,
it
and-
Sounds very.
Yes,
intriguing.
and when we were sealing it, or in the process of sealing it, and that was one of the issues why it had to be sealed, is, number one, is that it was drawing from multiple aquifers, which would open up for cross-contamination from one aquifer to the other. And the other one was when they initially drilled it, it has a bend. It was really weird, because when the camera was going down, it kept banging on the side because it went down and then it was crooked somewhat. So it was just not a really good drill to begin
I
with.
suppose that's harder material on one side would cause.
I
it to
don't know
drift
what
over.
caused that, but anyway, so just before the sealing, because it was only cased down to 35 feet, there was a lot of knowledge there to learn from before that was actually sealed. So they sent down, so the camera, they had gamma logging, they did kind of like, I forget what it was called, but it was kind of like a radar pulse, you know, like a bat uses. So they could, when they came to a cavity in the wall, they knew how deep it went. So there was a lot of different data that they got from it. So we had that, and but my goal is, what I would like to see is some kind of video composite with the time-lapse photography that Olmsted SWCD did of the top of the well work, and then just kind of putting that together and putting it on the One Watershed, One Plan website.
Yeah.
But Amanda did share that, the photography logging.
Where was it?
Altura?
Altura, and that was a 700 foot?
Uh-huh.
Altura is actually Spanish for great heights. It's the highest point in Winona
Oh.
County.
Oh, is
So,
it?
yeah.
Right, okay.
Still, that's a losing game.
That's what happens when you're the mayor. You learn all the little
All the
things
little
over time.
trivia, yeah.
I was the mayor there.
Oh.
I lived there 17 years. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was interesting.
and then to me, also interesting, once they got down 700 feet, you know, all the way down, there's porous cavities, there's, you know, cross flow, there's all kinds of things happening, but at 700, it finally got to, it looked like sheer bedrock, it looked like granite on the video.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
cool.
solid, good
Yep.
rock way down there, but
I'll piggyback on that. So when I obviously was in town and at some point in charge, I guess, in some aspect, there was multiple wells that were looked at decommissioning, and the grant at the time the state was giving out grants for $10,000 to seal the wells. And ironically, there was one right behind my brother's place right in town. And
Oh, yeah.
you remember me telling you this story?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sure enough, in that alley, my dad had the generator shop on one side, and my brother had a shop on the other side, and there was an alley that went through it right in the heart of town, right in the central, between Main Street and First Street. So I mean, it's the oldest part of the town. And they said, hey, there's supposed to be a well here. I said, I'm not kidding you. We dug down in that alley about this far, and we found the tri-star from the old windmill. And we went back in the 1800s and found the pictures of the windmill. And sure enough, there was a well there, and we only had to dig down. I mean, the little tabs are only that far into the dirt. And then we found the actual casing. We had Steve Pearson come up and backhoe and dig around it. And all we could find, they had capped it about that far, and below it was just remnants of old kind of like rags or something that they had stuck in the hole, and that was it. That was the casing to that hole. And
Yeah.
So I mean, you just think about how many of these are out there,
And
they're
that's the
sitting there for
challenge.
100-some years. right below the surface, and we never knew it. You know, we could have hit it with a skid loader any day and never known it. You know, right in the heart of town.
Right, and each
So-
one poses a risk because
Mhm.
it's not been properly sealed.
Yeah, and so actually
Yeah.
when they dug around it, the casing had already deteriorated under the concreted section that they put in however many years ago.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how many are out there, even right in the area. So, yeah. What else you got? Russ?
The only other thing, I think it's August 8th is the date, that the tentative date, August 8th for Winona County Family Night of the Farm. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it's gonna be held at Clear Crest Farms, which is just southeast of Lewiston.
Straight north of Wyatt.
Windcrest, you said? Okay.
Clear Crest.
Clearcrest, that's,
Millers.
okay,
Millers.
okay,
Rob and Luke Miller
okay, good.
are hosting that, and then there's conversation of a soil health day, and maybe that's further on our agenda. Is that the one on our
Yeah,
agenda?
that's the one,
Well, then
yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
All right, thank you.
And then otherwise, the standard training updates and whatnot at our meeting for our new staff that were new as of November. They continue to gain qualification, certification with their training. So that's all I got.
Wonderful. Attended a meeting for us, attended a meeting in Utica, Duisma. Was happy to see some local dairy farmers there. Sheila kind of spearheaded that with, I guess, who really put that on?
That was an idea from Don and Mike for the local advisory team group
Yeah.
that, you know, Don presented in May. And so it was not a LAT meeting, but it was kind of like, you know, we need to,
It's like an
Let-
outside of the outside meeting.
yes.
Yeah, but it
Trying
went
to
well.
pull together some farmers and see if they want to be certified in the Ag Certified program, just to help them, you know, with, if that would be something, you know, didn't want it to be high pressure, but, so it was their idea. So we had also the meeting, the same type of meeting in Elgin and Altura. And so that was kind of, the idea is, hey, if this is something you think you want to do, it's, you know, a good program. And so,
Some local prominent farmers in the area that
Yes,
had land.
that was good.
Were there. So it's just good to see, you know, just good to see that some of the participation. And I think there was a little bit of eye opener too as to the unfortunate regulation that's probably coming down. But at the same time, you know, giving a little glimmer of hope that says, hey, you know, we continue to do the right thing, maybe we can change. And this is, it's very interesting, Ross, that you brought this up, because the first thing I went to my mind when you said one aquifer dumping into the next aquifer, how are we ever going to fix that in time? And this is that acceleration of all these things, because we don't know the unknowns underground and how we're trying to blame a lot of things and we don't really know what's happening. So, and it's interesting to know the sewer pond drain, right? So,
Interesting.
Interesting.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, it's a little louder for
Drain.
that there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sewer pond drain, right. So again, you know, are we looking in the right avenues? We know we all need to do our part. Okay, so on past that, a couple big things for us. I've been really working with our county after the EPA and PCA inspections that we had. Unprecedented. We've never heard of that happening before. So I pushed hard and was fortunate to get a good vote that the county establishes some sort of a protocol for the employees if that ever happens again, for the feedlot officers, and then also to draft a letter to all the feedlot producers in our county so they know what their rights are, what they can or can't do with the EPA and PCA goes to their farm, and so they're more well informed as to as we see more of these. I believe we're going to see more of them. I hope I'm wrong, but they know what they can do. So for you other commissioners, it might be something to take a look at also, and especially if you're in the rural districts, to say, hey, can we have the attorneys, county attorneys, look into protocol establishing what not only the employees' rights are. I felt our employee felt trapped, didn't know what to do, and then also so the farmers know what's expected. So, well, Winona County should be seeing that letter, I'm hoping, in the next
okay.
couple months.
I did see the protocol. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
I liked it.
So there's a lot of language in there, but maybe we can get it reduced down, but the idea is that we need to, our farmers need to know what they can do and what they can't do. And so hopefully we'll get that pushed through. I've kind of spearheaded that whole project and brought it up, and fortunate to actually get some support on that from even the city commissioners a little bit. So I was surprised. I think it was more for the staff. They didn't really see it so much for the farmer, but I drug it into the farmer side also to make sure they know. So there's that. Then the jail side, Monday they had a joint. So for us, it's a big deal. Homestead, probably not such a big deal. But for us, they're looking at doing something with our LEC center. We're coming fresh off from a jail, trying to foot the bill for this one, a $28 million jail. We proposed a resolution in the coming up here that we switch it from property tax to sales tax, which I'm heavily in favor of. That spans it across a lot more people, including tourism, college kids, stuff like that. So that should be good. But on the backside, they're filling it right back up with this need for an LEC center. So it's difficult, I believe, that they're going to get their way and they're going to get another new LEC center
So
instead of
what-
putting money into the one we have.
Okay, retrofitting what you have, or?
We can retrofit what we have on what I'm going to say probably a glorified wish list of things that need to happen. There's some definite safety concerns like fentanyl and things like that, that we've got to have some safe rooms and stuff. But right now what's being proposed is that it gets built in an old pro-build facility, which is a block and a half away from the jail. So now segregating the LEC center from the jail. The city is getting some money from the state to build, and they're saying basically, hey, county, come in with us. So we're taking, on the high side, $4 to $5 million worth of project costs to kind of update our LEC a little bit and get it up to specs, and turning it into a $9 to $20 million project, which for us is a lot of money in Winona County. And I'm trying to pump the brakes and go, hey guys, we're just recovering from this. We're still trying to figure out how to pay for it. Just maybe it's a little lipstick on a pig for 10 years, but that's okay right now.
And don't
So-
we want to try and consolidate things and keep things together?
Mhm.
And there's been a lot of talk about regional things. I know dispatch is one that's getting talked
Correct.
about. And
Well, and what's
now
really
they want to go and have another facility.
what's frustrating to us is last week Houston County had 2 people in their jail. How many people do you have in your jail right
I don't know, 8 or 10, probably 12.
now? And a jail that houses 60.
Yep, for 48. or
48,
something.
full capacity, I think is 60, if they extend it out or so,
Yeah.
yeah. So we look at what we had before, did we really need this jail? We got 2 neighboring communities, we could have kept doing what we did, and now we're looking at spending more money, so it's just unfortunate.
You know, and just, I'm not taking shots at the people that wear the little stars that say sheriff on them, but
No, neither am I.
they are very independent people.
Well, and I mean, I ran on supporting all this and supporting our LECs and they're supporting our, and we do need to, but we also have to be conscious about how we do it.
Yep.
And so we can trade a black eye. And I've had conversations, I'm going to say the powers to be in that position, and just said, hey, this isn't real palatable to the public right now. Just give this some time. This might take a little while, but you got one thing, it's going to take a while to get the other. So I don't think I'm going to win this battle, but it is what it is. So the jail, EPA, El Turo's, I could go on some other stuff, but those are probably the big ones right now. So what do you got, Bob?
Our Director of Taxpayer Services is moving to Scott County, so we're interviewing for that position.
I wish that's all we had. We got like a list that's long we're interviewing for.
Most of our positions are filled.
Oh, man.
Um,
We're doing okay. We're catching
We've
up.
got a lot of union issues going on, and I think that's gonna be more prevalent in the counties, all counties, just statewide. Unions trying to flex, I think, their power. For the most part, road projects will be starting, some have started. It's a lot of stuff going on, but in the right direction, I hope.
Maybe a little issue with the Hill Road project up going down in the Beaver, back way down. That road was supposed to be done all those years ago, and I got pushed off again. And now it got pushed off to 2026. EAW study.
Yep.
All because of a little segmented off a dry trout run. It doesn't even have water in it, but it's still considered as though it's got 1 million trout in it. That slows the project up for 2 years.
Waukesha went through that when they redid 81 through,
It's not an EIS at least, but it's
Yeah.
still, yeah.
Sheila, the Utica Duisma certification, just to clarify, that was Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, it
Which-
was an informational meeting on that program to encourage more people to sign up.
Now, what's interesting, and just to fill you guys in.
Well, and just time out there, that conversation was, in our Winona County meeting, was it's understaffed. There's people
Yes, and
signing
they're
up
supposed
left
to
and
be-
right, but they don't have enough staff to service all the applicants in a
Yes.
timely fashion, and so there's a frustration there.
and
Yes.
now on the back end of that, I'm up for recertification,
Mm-hmm,
you know, so now we got the recertification starting too.
right.
And is that being administered through the SWCD?
No, it's through the Department of Ag.
Right.
And then Greg Klinger is the regional coordinator, and of course, he's at Olmsted SWCD, but he oversees,
So the shortage is in the Department of Ag, not the SWCD.
right.
Correct.
Do you
But
see that coming down in the SWCDs though?
I don't know, but they're looking at hiring more for southeast Minnesota specifically.
So Representative Jacob, this is what he's proposing, is
Mm-hmm.
the $5 tax credit if you get this.
Mhm.
The other thing that was interesting that I didn't know was that, right or wrong, if you sign up for this, you actually create a little bit of favoritism. You kind of move to the front of the list. If you need to go outside of the boundaries of nitrogen application, et cetera, you'll be first. Let's say I think it's capped at 175 is what they had said. You know, if you do need to go up, you're going to be looked at as more grace to do those types of things. Because one of the questions I proposed was, hey, if I got a 300 bushel grower that needs more than 175 units of, and how can you put us all in one box? You know, you might produce some 300 bushel corn silage pretty quick, I would imagine. And how that takes more fertility to do that. So in other words, you're limiting the ability for me to make a livelihood, and based on a just blanketed rule. So one of the things that was interesting is if you were in this, the way I interpreted from what I heard was that you would have the leeway or more leeway or grace to move up on that platform to match those yield goals.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of an incentive, but it's like thanking me for sitting on tax and giving me a cushion at the same time. It's like saying, hey, it's regulation. That's the thing. It's still regulation, you know. So that's the problem, you know. Oh, it's a good thing inside of regulation. So none of it's good. But okay. Anyway, so we'll move on. Any other discussion? Financial update.
Okay, for February and March, the balances were for our accounts both months, about 114,560 or 597 for February, and for March, 114,703. That's taken into interest, but that's no big change from either one month to the next.
Okay. Any discussion? Move on to line item B, Whitewater Drinking Water Protection Grant Update, Soil Health Event.
Proposed budget?
Oh, proposed budget, sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I just
Sorry.
got notification this week from Winona County that I need to have a budget for 2025. So, very similar to the budget submitted from last year, keeping everything the same. Right now, the two grants that I have are the Whitewater Sealing Grant for 25 and the Local Advisory Team Grant, which deals with the Duismas. So that would be it. You know, so I was kind of on the conservative side, you know, not knowing what grants that would be coming down the pike that would be new between now and the end of the year. And so the allocation from each of the counties would remain the same. This amount has not changed since 2010. It's been a long time. It's been always at the same. But the difference is my payroll is from 25% down to 20%. So,
That's just what the county allocates though, correct? They're
Right.
just changing how they allocate your time.
right, correct.
It's not, you didn't get a 5% reduction in
No.
your salary. It's just.
No, it's just,
Yep.
Time allocation.
yep.
Yep.
And so, anyway, so this is the budget that I would like to submit, and I could send this out to the county, Winona at least, because they're the first ones to ask.
Actually need a motion on that. because
Yes, we
it's a
do.
deal. So we're gonna need a motion to submit the proposed budget, but beforehand, is there any other discussion?
I'm just wondering, what are the expenses? Like, you notice that?
For-
Well, like the, Whitewater, well, the well sealing.
That would be pass-through money, so expenses would be considered what the grant is spent on, and so this would be for what's passed through to landowners for well sealings. And then same for the local advisory team, those are the expenses for meeting expenses and other non-payroll related things.
I would move to accept the proposed budget.
Motion by Bob, second by Brian. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any more discussion?
Just a question on the audit expense of 33,350. My memory is audit expense increased last year. Would we
Yeah,
anticipate an increase?
I increased it here too,
Oh, in
just
the
to.
budget you did?
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
said, well, it usually goes up 100 to 150 each year, so I just threw that in there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now on the line item B, soil health event.
Okay, so under the Whitewater Drinking Water Protection Grant, Jenny Rasmussen at Wabasha SWCD is spearheading a tri-county soil health event. And looks like it's tentatively at the Graydon Farm. And
And to be specific, it's at my home address on
Okay.
County 114,
okay,
which is just a quarter mile down the road from Pork and Plant's greenhouse. Only because we have better access to warm season native grass planting, living snow fence, tree and conifer and shrub planting, a smaller feedlot upgrades that were made 10, 12 years ago, just more accessible to those items, not to mention a few experimental things with no-till corn, 15-inch spacing into alfalfa, planting green, just vertical tillage, just a few other things that are more accessible proximity-wise to the event.
yes, thank you for that summary, that'd be great. And so,
And thanks for hosting that.
Yes.
Education is very important.
and so because this is part of, so I told the group, we had one planning meeting and then there was one at Ross's home, and I wasn't there because I was on vacation. But anyway, I did tell the group that I would be, this grant will be able to fund that, the expenses for that field day from this grant. And, but anyway, I'm just glad and thankful that Ross is willing to do this. And I'm looking forward to planning for that. And I know we don't have a date set yet, but we're,
Mid to late July
okay,
is what they don't want to interfere with the Winona County Fair, they don't want to interfere with, and it's hard to navigate to dairy farmers harvesting their third cutting of alfalfa, fourth cutting, who knows where that will all line up. but-
right. And I know so Winona County Fair, and then the week after, I think, is the Olmsted County Fair, and the week after that is the Wabasha County Fair. So they're all,
Yeah.
so I don't know how that all come out, but anyway, that's
My guess is it would be the last week in July,
Okay.
but it's not up to me, so.
Well, it is up to you, too.
Oh, well then.
You picked the date.
You're hosting, so I think you do have a say in it, yes. So that's still to be determined. And we'll have more information, I'm sure, at the next meeting.
All right, any other discussion? Septic system upgrade status.
Okay, so under that same grant, we are funding some septic systems. And so if you go to the last page of the packet, you can see under the encumbered for the Whitewater drinking water grant, we have $43,651. Those are for 2 septic systems that are, and I called those 2 individuals up and see where they are at, because they had, we initiated those in the fall and they haven't happened yet because of the weather and whatnot. But the one, he was told by his contractor, you are the first one on my list when the rain lets up. And the other one, he actually had a second bid this past week, and so then he will decide which one he prefers to go with. And that one is the more expensive one because it's a very large system in a small lot. So that's all I had on that.
Any questions? All right, moving on to C, Whitewater well sealing grant.
And so right now, the status for that grant is we've had 2 wells sealed, and this grant goes, I think, until the end of
6.
26, 25.
25.
And I'm looking for, you talked about wells, if anybody knows of any people who need some wells sealed, I have some money for them. So right now, no new people have signed up to participate.
And I know there's been a push to advertise,
Yes.
the well ceilings and
Yes.
just pretty quiet, not much response.
Well, I think part of it, you've got 2 things going on. I go back to my soapbox I've always been on. You buy a piece of land, you're responsible for what happens.
Right.
And there's very little, I always say this, the banks and the realtors and everybody else is just, I want to make the loan and make my money. And then the landowner's going, oh crap, I wish somebody would have let me know. And then you have the second side, which is, I'm not gonna say I got a well, because that might cost me something, right? It might only give me 50% of what it costs.
Yeah.
That's the issue we have here. The issue is you've got fear of, that's expensive, and I didn't even know I had it, or I do know I had it, but I turned a blind eye because I didn't think it was an issue. So I think the public awareness to it needs to start all the way back from the beginning of purchasing a property. And that, hey, you're responsible for this. And then the second side would be, or the person selling the piece of property needs to do something about it if it's known to be there. So I think those are part of the reasons why this thing is still dragging its feet.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, yep. Yeah, I think it's just an injustice that it's a collective taxpayer effort to fix something on a private property purchase. I think it needs to be handled by the people that own it, but in the meantime, how do we fix it? Well, we gotta make it well known that it's just not gonna be a burden to you until we get these things fixed or until that time frame changes, so whatever.
So for clarification, what % cost share is
This grant
offering?
has 75%.
Okay, thank
So
you.
if something's a $15,000 well seal project, and that person's going, man, I'm not gonna shell out $4 grand.
Right.
It's scary to them, so I'm just not gonna say anything, That's
Yeah.
the issue. What do I care type mentality. I'm not saying everybody's that way, but I think that's why it's quiet.
Sure. So I mean, eventually, there's work happening to identify wells, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, once the wells are identified, it's gonna be regulation again. You are gonna seal this well, you're gonna seal that well, they're gonna start enforcing it.
Well, I think it's on the landowner though, that.
Right, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not so much the using wells, current
Mhm.
wells,
Mhm.
if there's
Those
old
abandoned, yeah.
identified.
If you've
abandoned
decommissioned
wells.
something, you need to do it properly,
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I mean,
Right
part
now,
of me
dealing
says
with
we're again leading towards regulation.
Yeah, Well, I'm trying to make it on the person buying it.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But I mean, once the wells are identified.
But you chose to live out in the,
Mhm.
here, you chose to live there. It comes with an inherent set of
Yeah.
things that could potentially happen.
So, just a curiosity, did the city of Altura receive 75% cost share to reseal their well?
They had a different grant, and which I did through the county. And we paid, or I'd say we, but the grant paid the cost of the contractor fee and then the well house removal. And that's all the grant paid for. However, there was a lot of staff time involved. Dan Horvat had to remove a lot of debris as they were bringing it up. And so there was his staff time, there was my staff time, Ross Dunsmore's staff time to observe and confirm that it was being sealed properly. So we had a 25% match on that. And just as a note, I overestimated because I didn't know how much it would cost. So I had some extra money left over that has been unspent as of this time. And I was contacted by the city of Lewiston, and this is the top, we were talking about the old creamery well, needed to be sealed because it was actually at one time connected to the city municipal water. So there was a contamination.
It's the one in the parking lot in the back, that back in there, isn't it? The old creamery well in Lewiston?
Sounds right, it's something real goofy.
By Benson's, yeah, there's
Yeah.
like a gravel parking lot, there's a.
Is
there's
that
the
where it
old
is?
Well, there's the old windmill that used to go
Okay,
up there. yeah.
okay. All right, so we had some leftover money to apply towards that, and then they also had money for that well from the source water fund from the state. So we'll be able to seal the 2 wells with that grant.
And didn't the city of Utica drill a new well or in the process of?
They're in the process,
So as soon
and
as their new one's drilled, they will need to decommission their old one?
not necessarily, they're gonna still
No.
use the old one, I believe.
But what it did do in the Duisma, although it's still in an active stage 2, it halted all of the kind of
The local advisory team,
local
yeah.
advisory regulation until the new well gets drilled and they test and say yes or no. If that one comes back good, then they might lift the regulation onto the ag practices. So basically where it is, it's in a holding pattern without any regulation, but it's still classified as a level 2.
Right, and once they drill the new well, that could change the Duisma boundary, so that's kind of the hang
Kinda
up,
the idea.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Local advisory team grant.
Okay. I just wanted to update people on what's happened since last meeting, and of course we had, and what Josh alluded to before, we've been having these meetings with people who have land in these Duismas about the Ag Certainty Program.
Yep. Going very well.
Mhm.
So is there a typo there somewhere? The grant amount was 28,400. Oh, okay, nope. I thought it was $479 spent, but it's 4,700. Okay. I'm gonna say that doesn't add up to,
Oh,
nope.
I even bought my own meal there.
and you didn't have to,
And I know I
because,
didn't have to, but I did it. I actually brought Brad Trant's meal and Ashley threw my meal on, because he was sitting over there, I saw him when I bought his lunch, and then she threw
Oh,
mine on
okay.
there. That's how that happened.
okay, I thought, that really confused me, I thought, what is he doing? But-
Okay, is there any agency, we don't have anybody here, is there anybody sent anything in?
No, but I will be presenting to the Winona County Board on Tuesday. This is part 2 of the EPA petition, basically just reviewing what programs are out there and what's being done. So I kind of have it in 2 parts, what was done the day before the petition happened, because I just acknowledging that this didn't catch people blindsided. There was active work to try and address nitrates, and then what are the details of the work plan that was submitted to the EPA, and what are the pieces that are falling into place. There's still a lot of unknowns because things are still trying to be decided by the legislature. And that was kind of interesting. I called somebody at the Department of Health yesterday, and she says, "Are you calling me because of the hearing?" I said, "No." She was on the phone listening to or watching the hearing, and they were talking about the $2 million appropriation for the 8-county area for the EPA petition and, the work plan. And she said, Winona was off the list. And I think she thinks it was just it was the alphabetical listing. Winona was the last one, and it accidentally got dropped. But as it was presented to the legislature, there were only 7 counties. Yeah, so I'm not dealing with that.
Okay.
At least somebody's aware of it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I guess we can adjourn here, but I'm just going to say what I said at the last county board meeting. It's just got brought up. We're getting a nitrate deal. The complexity of this nitrate thing goes far beyond what we can even understand, and we've just recently began to really put some sort of focus on measuring. We don't know how long this has been happening. We don't know what's natural. We don't know what's happened from things out of our control, in our control. And I brought up again, and because that thing is recorded, anybody that might want to watch this, is that this is a game of willingness to play the game. Meaning, and this is what's interesting, the people that I feel, this is my opinion, that the people that are pushing for this and wanting to point fingers as to where the problem is coming from, first of all, probably have a very little amount of economic impact on them to begin with. Second of all, it only exists as long as the average farmer wants to play the game. And until he says, I no longer want to play the game, this is the fast track to large corporate farming. This is the fast track to the Coca-Colas, like the Fairview, Fair Oaks, and large corporation, billion-trillion-dollar corporations owning the BlackRocks and Vanguards, taking over agriculture in the United States, because the small guy, what we consider small anymore, what is actually small are two different things, and what's big and what we consider big are two different things. And I can show you big farms. We work with very large farms, and around here we just don't have that. So at the last meeting I said, we have to understand that this only exists until the average farmer no longer wants to play the game. And when it gets to the point where the Coca-Colas are winning and the large companies are winning, they have the power to tell legislators at the federal, state, and local levels, this is the way it's going to be. And then you think you lost control over regulation, they'll dictate what regulates, and that's the way it's going to work. So we need to work with our farmers, we need to help them and not impose an economic impact on them, to keep them in business, but at the same time help with education and understand that this is not just solely something that they are doing, and that it's a very complex measure. So that's been my soapbox. I'm going to stand on it, and so it's on record again that I said it. So
I'm going to piggyback on that, if I may, and just point out that I just read that in today's Winona Daily News again, that since 2017, Minnesota has seen a 31% increase in adoption of cover crops on the landscape. That's a phenomenal number. It really is. Amazing adoption rate. And then my other point would be, the world needs to wait for the science to dictate the solution, not politics. Politics cannot dictate the solution. It's got to come from science, and science is not there yet. As that video in the Altura City well clearly pointed out to me, nobody's even imagined a lot of that, but to see it is powerful. But now we need science to lead us.
And we need time. We need time for the economic. And the other thing that I didn't say here is that, and I said this at the Capitol when I testified, is that this is a global economy. You can't impose hard sanction restrictions on a localized, micronized environment and expect people to still want to play the game. They won't do it. They simply won't do it. And the track record is that they're not doing it. It is on a huge scale. And that is why you're seeing the corporate world's buying up all the land. They're buying up things. They're starting these mega dairies, mega farms. And they're doing it because the small guy isn't willing to do it anymore. He can't do it economically. And if we keep imposing this, the milk market is a global market. The ag market is a global market. We're not competing against our neighbor, a neighboring state, anything. We're competing against China, Brazil, Uruguay. I mean, these are the Chile. These are the countries that we're competing with that have zero regulations, zero restrictions, to the point where it's economical for them to put it on a barge and ship it across the ocean. If that doesn't wake somebody up and say, "Holy crap," that's how little they can operate off from compared to what we need to do to be farmers here in the United States. So we are on the fast track to the vanguards, the Gates, the Black Rocks of taking over agriculture on the corporate sector if we're not careful what we do here.
Agreed.
So with that, that's my soapbox. Sorry, sounds like preaching, but I'm just passionate about it. So any other discussion? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
So
Motion made by Ross. I don't know who seconded it. Brian? Second. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? You're adjourned.